green shoots. The frost clung late to the furrows, even though the sun had begun to rise earlier each morning. A false spring, her mother called it. Sweet one day and cruel the next. Elin knelt at the edge of the potato patch, her bare fingers sunk into the gritty, stubborn soil. The land here in Småland was always rocky, as if God himself had lost patience with the place and tossed 1,000 stones into every field. She tugged gently at a soft green sprout, pushing up through the crusted dirt, only to find it yellowed and limp beneath the surface. The roots had rotted. Another one lost. She exhaled through her nose and tucked it into her apron pocket to show her father later. Not that it would matter. They all knew the potatoes wouldn't come this year. Behind her, the cottage sagged against the hillside like a tired old man. Its wood was grey from decades of wind and weather, and smoke from the hearth rose so faintly that it disappeared before it reached the treetops. There wasn't much left to burn, just pine cones and some twigs she'd gathered near the road. From inside came the soft cough of her youngest sister, Karin. That cough had lasted all winter. A brittle little sound like dry leaves rubbing together. Elin paused and closed her eyes. That cough worried her more than the ruined potatoes. She stood slowly, stretching her sore knees and brushing soil from her palms. From the ridge behind the house she could see the shimmer of Lake Togsjön, still edged with ice, though the ducks had returned to the reeds. The sky was washed thin, the colour of buttermilk, and the air carried the scent of damp earth and snow melt. Somewhere out in the birchwoods a bird called out, a clear, fluting trill, the first song of the season. Elin tilted her head toward it, as if listening could give her an answer. In her apron pocket, wrapped in waxed linen to protect it from the damp, lay the letter. Uncle Anders had sent it from Minnesota the previous autumn, sealed with wax and smelling faintly of tobacco and something sharp, ink or maybe hope. She'd read it so many times she could recite it like a prayer. We have wheat taller than a man. There is work for everyone. You must only be willing. He had enclosed a photograph, a faded image of him standing in front of a white house, the sky above him enormous. His beard was neatly trimmed, and he wore a jacket that looked heavy and warm. Behind him, the field stretched farther than Elin had ever seen a road go. She hadn't shown the photograph to her mother, only the letter. Her mother had read it silently, then folded it with care and handed it back without a word. But that night, Elin had seen her sit longer than usual at the table, her hands idle in her lap. It wasn't that Elin wanted to leave Sweden. She loved the land, even the hard soil and wind-bent trees. She loved the way the birches shimmered in midsummer, the way the hills turned gold in late August. But the land did not love them back. Not anymore. They hadn't had a proper harvest in 3 years. First the frost, then the rain, then a blight that turned the rye black on the stalk. Her father still walked the fields each morning like a man in church, touching the soil as if it might forgive them. But forgiveness didn't fill stomachs. Inside the cottage, Karin coughed again. Then the scrape of a chair and her mother's soft voice coaxing her to drink broth. Elin clenched her jaw and looked back down at the ruined patch of earth. Behind her came the creak of boots on the frozen ground. Elin! She turned. Eric stood a few paces away, his cap in his hand, his dark hair mussed like he'd been tugging at it. His boots were muddy to the ankles. He must have come from the forge. The smell of smoke and iron clung to him. "You're out early," he said. "I needed to check the potatoes." He looked past her toward the furrows, his brow furrowing to match. "And?" She shook her head. They stood in silence, the kind that had grown more familiar between them in recent months. Last year, they'd spoken in laughter and dreams. This year, it was silence and choices. I heard from your cousin Anders, Eric said, his voice low. At the tavern. He says they're building a railroad in America, paying laborers by the day. Elin blinked. You talked to him. Eric shifted. He wrote to my uncle, said there's no shortage of work, but also said it's cold and lonely. Said not everyone makes it. She felt the letter in her pocket like a heartbeat. Uncle Anders says there's land and food, that if you're willing to work, you can have something of your own. Eric's jaw tensed. You think America's going to be any kinder than this place? Elin met his eyes. Maybe not. But this place is squeezing the life out of us. He looked away, toward the cottage. So you'll go. She didn't answer right away. The wind picked up slightly, tugging at the loose edge of her headscarf. I don't want to leave. But I also don't want to watch Karin waste away, or see my father give up. I don't want to become like my mother, stitched together with sorrow and mending thread. Eric looked down at the ground. When he spoke again, his voice was rough. I had plans, Elin. So did I. He didn't stop her when she turned to go. Didn't call after her. She walked back to the cottage, feeling the weight of her decision settle over her shoulders like a shawl too heavy to take off. At the door, her father stood with his hand resting on the frame, his face pale in the morning light. Come in, he said. Karin wants you. Elin stepped inside, warmth brushing her cheeks like a breath. Karin lay on the bed near the hearth, her cheeks flushed, her hair damp with sweat. Elin sat beside her, smoothing a cool cloth over her brow. Mama says you're going to America, Karin whispered. Elin hesitated. Then she nodded. If I go, I'll write you letters. And when I can, I'll send for you. Karin's eyes fluttered closed. Bring me something from there. Something nice. Elin swallowed the lump in her throat. I will. That night, Elin sat at the kitchen table after the others had gone to bed, her hands wrapped around a mug of barley tea. She unfolded the letter again, smoothing the creases. Her candle guttered in the draught, and somewhere outside, a fox barked once into the dark. She did not know what America would hold, but she knew what staying would bring. Outside, in the potato field, the frost had finally begun to melt. In the black soil, a single green shoot had survived.